Did the people of Australia have agreement with Her Majesty to form the Commonwealth Parliament? That's an agreement. That's a contract. You've got a piece of paper. You've got her walking around doing the little whatever twirlies. We've got a couple of British people representing her. Hallelujah. And a couple in the front row too. Mode of altering the Constitution. This Constitution shall not be altered. There's a point in this because they're going to try to trick you on this. Because remember, the UN can't take over until the Republic is proclaimed. Are you going to let them get that Republic before you make them accountable? Because if you do, you're on the good ship Lollipop. The proposed law for the alteration thereof must be passed by an absolute majority of each House and not less than 2 or more than 6 months after its passage. The proposal shall be submitted in each state and territory to the electors qualified to vote. And it goes on. Next slide, please. Once it's up there, it's on the DVD. Get the DVD. I'm not going to read the lot. Next slide, please. It's already there. Next slide, please. Agreed to the electors in each state qualified to vote for the election. So it's saying you can only alter that Constitution under Section 128. In the Australia Act, 1986, they didn't want to abide by that, so they slipped back into Section 51 and did a slam dunk on yous. We'll sort that one out down the track. Keep going, please. It shall be presented to the Governor-General, the bottom of it. It shall be presented to the Governor-General for the Queen's assent. Now, since the Australia Act, the Governor-Generals and Governors do their own royal assent. So she went out in the Australia Act. Anybody see her go? Anybody give permission for her to go? But it says the only way you could have done that is to get your consent under Section 128. So where you slam dunked at the Australia Act. Because you're the jury, you're the elector. A jury is only chosen from the electors, and that's why the judges hate it, that's why the bar hates it, because they said if a jury sits on this, they'll indict us. Will you? Of course you will, because this is criminal activity. It's called treason, it's called concealing of treason, it's called fraud, and it's called a whole lot of criminal activity. Here we go, this is what they're going to do. It's referendum or plebiscite. Now, isn't that cute? Now, the word plebiscite does not appear in the Constitution, but what they're going to do, because they're a bit frightened of the referendum, they're going to trick you with a plebiscite. Are you ready for the trick? Are you ready for the trick? Because it says if you sleep on your rights, you'll lose them. If you can show me whether a plebiscite is required in the Constitution, I'll submit to that. They're about to slam dunk you with a plebiscite. A plebiscite is the process of referring a political question to the general elector. Voters are asked to answer yes or no to a written question. A plebiscite is different to a referendum because the results are not legally binding. Oh, hello. Hello, what a trick. We got wind of this in a chance conversation with a friend of mine who was attending a Republic meeting. And he stood up and he said, wouldn't you be bound to Section 128? To which they replied, we're not going to let the electorate get that go. We're going to do it by plebiscite. And I thought, excuse me, I'm a farmer. I thought, what the hell's a plebiscite? I couldn't even spell it. But I knew that I was married to a lady who knew all that. So I said, how do you spell the word plebiscite? But for once she said, I don't know. So we're poking into uncharted territories here. All I'm saying is they're going to put the plebiscite before the referendum, which in actual fact is not legally binding. Isn't that a slam dunk trick? This more modern use of the plebiscite arose out of the French Revolution. Oh, hello, they learnt it there. They learnt it there. And the French Republic's policy of holding popular votes on the question of French annexation of a territory had many, although not all, of these plebiscites, and those held in the following century, were manipulated by the occupying power to legitimate an outcome already achieved through military or diplomatic means. Are you ready for the slam dunk? Are you ahead of the slam dunk? Next slide. The use of the plebiscite reached a high point following World War I when it was employed extensively in Central and Eastern Europe to determine the boundaries of newly created nation states. Well, what have they got in mind for the Aussie? plebiscite for an Australian Republic bill. Well, look who introduced the bill. But at this point of time, it's only a bill. It's not the Act. So we've caught them fair in the middle. Hallelujah. It says a bill for an Act to require a plebiscite on whether Australia should become a republic. This is about 500 lawyers employed by the UN to work out how to trick the Aussie. Any Aussie happy about that? It's a bill, which means you can do a lot to stop this bill. Next one, please, Darren. National plebiscite to be held, and this is how they disguise it. The minister must cause the question specified in section 5 to be submitted to electors at a national plebiscite to be held at the time of the next general election for the House of Representatives. So they're ready to slam dunk you with a plebiscite. The question to be submitted to electors in accordance with, do you support Australia becoming a republic? But it's done by a plebiscite, not by the referendum. Disguised as a referendum, but it's actually a plebiscite. You getting the picture here? And Rudd would say, trust me, I'm a doctor. Oh, please. Julia.Gillard would say, would I lie to the people of Werribee? She's our elector. I got pulled over by the copper at our place the other day just to do a licence check. He never met me and I'd never met him. But when I gave him my licence, he said, Brian Shaw. I said, why is my name familiar with you? Because this is at a different place than Werribee. And he said, well, I'm Shane Flynn. And instantly I knew who he was because 12 years before he was the copper down in Werribee. But he was also the mayor of Werribee. And he said, well, now you've changed your address, you better change your address on the licence. I said, no, I'll keep the one I got down in Werribee. He said, why? I said, because I charged Julia.Gillard for concealing treason. He said, what'd you do that for? I said, because she knew they took the Crown out of Western Australia and she didn't tell the elector. To which he said, you can't take the Crown out without a referendum. I said, Shane, I'll rest my case. Next one, please. Application of Referendum Machinery Provisions Act 1984. The Referendum Machinery Provisions Act applies to the submission of the question specified in section 5 and the scrutiny of the result of the plebiscite, with such modifications as are necessary to allow the submission of the question and scrutiny of the result on the same basis as a referendum under that Act. Now the problem is, we've already got it at section 128. What do I want to do this little bit in the middle, in the front for? Lest they know there's a trick in there. And it'll be a big trick. Because all the Aussies interested in is where they can shop the cheapest, buy the cheapest fuel, and what's on TV tonight. And that's why that magistrate said, if you sleep on your rights, you'll lose them. It's the job of the church to wake the Aussie up. You're the only political party in the whole Commonwealth of Australia that has permitted this presentation. The West Australian One Nation Party. You're the only political party in the Commonwealth of Australia that wants to know what's going on. Now this came to one of the guys from Kalgoorlie, specifically Ian here, and it's from the West Australian Electoral Commission, apparent failure to vote. It's an unlawful election, it's an illegal parliament, but for not voting for him you get charged $20. But at the bottom it says, if you do not respond to this notice by the due date, the matter may be dealt with by the Fines Enforcement Registry, after which your driver's licence or any vehicle licence held by you may be suspended and additional cost incurred.
That's terrible.
Hey, it's a West Australian Act. Where were you when they did it? Of course, because nobody knows your licence is suspended. You're pulled over with a suspended licence. Now you're on a charge of driving without a licence. You could have had an accident, killed someone. You're not insured. But you know, at the end, you did not know this was happening. Is that correct? Well, now you can do a few things. There's your Fines, Penalties, Infringements Notice Act. It was assented to Cheryl Edwards, Attorney General, God save the Queen. Oh, hello.